Hi everyone. I would like to talk about a very important topic today, and the topic is why what we are learning is not always translated into actions and into changes in our everyday life. So, as a coach and energy psychology practitioner, I'm seeing that people are making a lot of progress, changing their subconscious beliefs with me using different tools. And then they often um, assume that changes on the level of their everyday life will just happen automatically without any effort. And there is some truth to that. There is some truth to that, that changes can happen easier when you have done the work on yourself and on your mindset. You have changed the beliefs that were there, the emotions that were there. You have cleared the path. So the path is cleared, but it doesn't mean that you don't need to make steps forward. So I want to talk about this, and I actually wrote a blog post on the same topic, and it's a topic that I think is very relevant. It was relevant for me for a long time because I was asking that question to myself, and many spiritual seekers and people who are into personal growth are just going from workshop to workshop, from healer to healer, from do a lot of different practices, or follow different techniques, read books, and eventually not some, I mean, they don't see so many changes at the level of their everyday life. So I started thinking about this topic, and just from what I realized for myself, from my experience, and from the experience of many of other people, I am right now convinced that any inner changes need to be confirmed and integrated or merged with actual steps and actions that we take in life. So inner changes are helpful, but they have to be one and the same with what we are doing in everyday situations. So it these everyday situations are different for different people. That could be related to relationships, your career, creative expression, if that's what you were working on creative expression blocks. So, or money, abundance mindset. So after clearing the consciousness, after clearing the mind and working through emotions and beliefs, then we need to take steps so that the changes can take place. Because it's like the path is clear, but we don't walk the path. And I will explain a little bit, I will explain it a little bit better throughout this video. So why people don't take these steps, right? Because there is a lot of resistance to change. And this is often underestimated, how resistant our system, energy system, or just how resistant we are to making these changes. And then it becomes obvious when you try to take new steps that you haven't done before. We don't have habits, we don't have neural pathways that are related to these new behaviors. And so it takes a while to establish them. And very often people are looking for some shortcuts. But the news is that there is no shortcut. There is no shortcut. As you start walking on the spiritual path, on the path of self-development, you see that there is actually no shortcut, and you have to walk every step yourself. It's good if you have a community of friends and people who can help you in this, but eventually each step, or if you have a teacher, or if you have a coach or somebody who can hold your hand and be next to you, but you're taking those steps yourself. So when people are thinking in that way, that there is a shortcut, that going to and having a session with with a healer or with a coach or with a mindset shift specialist could change their life forever. That is not true. They will help you and they will give you the tools, and then you need to make the steps that are consistent with what you are working on. So sometimes this becomes more of a distraction even, and avoidance technique. Just going to different workshops, or just going to different so let's say going to shamans or going to healers and doing retreats, 2-week retreats, 10 days retreats. This is helpful, but then I want to emphasize how important it is to actually take the simple steps in everyday life that are consistent with what you want. So it takes a lot of courage. That's another reason why people are looking for shortcuts, because we have a lot of fears related to anything new and anything unfamiliar. So of course, if you want to change your life dramatically, or you want to have fast changes in your life, you need to explore new ways of behaving, new ways of thinking. And as I said, there is a lot of resistance to this. So it takes consistent action, every day changing the way you behave, right? And then we have fear of authentic self-expression because it's not welcomed in the world in general. So let's say a child wants to be a creative and starts drawing on the wall, right? And the parent immediately says, "What are you doing?" So the child stops the impulse, or just the innocent impulse to create something new is being just blocked. And then when the child wants to do it again, he or she will just think, okay, that wasn't welcomed. So we have a lot of fears of authentic self-expression. And instead of changing how we approach each situation and just thinking about it, how am I going to react to this situation? Let's say if we are talking about a guy who wants to meet a woman, right? And then he wants to approach a girl, but has a fear or doubt about, or fear of rejection, or doubt that she will accept his offer, or will start responding to his questions, let's say. So then he might think about how he would approach this situation next time, and actually trying it, right? Trying it. When we try once, we establish new neural pathway, right? And there are a few steps I can suggest if you're thinking about changing your behavior, because changing your beliefs is very helpful, and removing negative emotions and a lot of charge and stuckness around this area with the help of a technique or with the help of a professional is helpful. But then you need to take those steps, and it's not going to be very easy. So very often people say that it's going to be just it's just going to happen by itself. Women will start approaching me after I cleared some beliefs, and it could happen. It could happen to you, but it's not something that will never happen, but it might happen like that. But actually, more often in practice, it just takes consistent effort and changing your real action steps, making small adjustments, and also being ready to face the fears and to be courageous, even though it's never guaranteed, and we need to overcome our fears, but it's really worth it when you can express yourself from your heart and go for what you want. So the simple recommendation here would be, yes, reading books is helpful, going to workshops is helpful, but then when it comes to real changes, just start doing what you learn to be true for yourself. Start doing it in simple real life situations. And I'm going to read you a quote from Dale Carnegie about it. Dale Carnegie quote, it says that inaction breeds doubt and fear. Action breeds confidence and courage. If you want to conquer fear, do not sit home and think about it. Go out and get busy. So I found that when I started to actually make steps that are consistent with my inner changes, that's when the real change started to happen. And I also found that integration between what I believe inside and what happens outside. It's like merging between outside world and the inner world, and just realizing that it's all one. Without taking those steps, it would never happen. And actually, there was a period of time where I believed that I had the same belief that I need to work on myself only, and then changes would take place. Changes took place eventually, but I needed to make the steps, start making steps. And we can start making steps as early as we want. We don't have to wait. So, and it always will bring some emotional reaction. Emotional reactions are actually chemical reactions in the body, right? Emotions are created by chemical reactions that are like habits. And they just, they appear as a signal that something goes into the unfamiliar territory. So let's say again, about the man who wants to meet a woman. He's approaching her and he has an emotional reaction. So he might be feeling some fear, right, or doubt. And this emotion, he might interpret this emotion as that he's not ready yet. But this is just a chemical reaction in the body that tells him that he's about to do something new, and that is not familiar to his body. And the body says that could be dangerous, because maybe in the past there was a situation that didn't go well. So to rewrite this established neural pathway in the brain, we need to do this step, the next step, and actually do it in a different way, so that a new neural pathway can be established, and next time it's going to be easier and the emotion will not come up, because now we will confirm a new way, and it will also confirm and establish that this is not a dangerous situation, nothing bad might happen, nobody's gonna die, right? And everybody will be still here after the conversation will take place. So and so very often we interpret this negative emotional reaction as a sign that we shouldn't do it, or that something might go terribly wrong. And or even in some situations that we are not on the right path, that we are not supposed to do that if we have this emotional reaction. So that's common for something like and maybe you're meeting someone and you have a reaction, that person gives you a call and you think, should I go out or not with this person for lunch, let's say, and you have a little bit of anxiety and you think that, okay, maybe that's not a good idea, but maybe that anxiety is only because you haven't gone to a lunch with anyone for a while. So it's something new. It's very normal to have an emotional reaction to a new pattern that we haven't yet explored. So it's actually a good news then. We can celebrate this discomfort that comes when we try to establish a new pathway. That means that we are on the verge of making a shift. We are on the verge of making a change. And that's a little bit, so right now we are exploring a new territory. And it's like when you're going on a hiking trip and you're never took this hike before, and then you're studying the route. It might be unfamiliar, and it might go into, it might have its ups and downs, right? So anything unfamiliar can create an initial apprehension or a reaction. But as long as we follow through, we will learn that and establish a new pathway, new thought pattern. It can only be established if we take the action. So that's why I wanted to record this video to make this point. And we have, so when you are making inner changes, you are planting the seeds for this actions to happen, for the opportunity to come into your life. And then later, as we take steps, you are nurturing those seeds, and they turn into flowers, they turn into beautiful garden that is just blooming. And with any garden, it needs some nourishment. We need to water it, right? We don't just plant the seeds and just wait until they come out, because we know that for a plant to grow, we need to water it, we need to take care of it. And in the same way with our inner changes, we need to take care of them and create conditions for them to bloom through actions. And that way we have balance in life and we have integrity. So I also want to share at the end this little process that I think is going to be helpful if you have in mind an action step or a quality that you're working on. So maybe I'm going to use the same example with a guy who is meeting a girl, and a quality could be confidence in approaching women, right? So let's say this is going to be the quality, and you can take anything. So you can take any quality, and then you can think about a couple of situations where you can express this quality in your life. Confidence in talking to women. You can think about specifically when will you have a chance to express this quality, and write it down. Okay, and then next you can imagine the situation, and imagine that you're behaving exactly as you would like to. And if you have any reaction that comes up, any fear that comes up when you imagining how you feel in a perfect situation, right? You feel confident, you're approaching this woman, and what exactly are you saying to her in this specific situation? So maybe you have two different situations where you would meet a woman. It doesn't have to be the same context. It could be even talking to somebody who is also a woman, but with a different intention, just to practice talking to somebody of a different gender. So you can write down any fears that come up. So what was stopping you from doing this before, right? Why, or if that was a problem in the past, why it was a problem? What kind of thoughts come to mind when you're thinking about doing that and approaching the woman confidently? And then for each of these fears, you can write down what you're afraid is going to happen in the worst case scenario. So if everything goes really badly, what is gonna happen, right? And then you can write it down honestly. And even looking at this honestly of what you are afraid of in the worst case is gonna happen. This is, even just looking at it is already clearing the path for you to take this action. So even though this is not a pleasant part of this exercise, but just jot down what you think is going to happen in the worst case. Well, she might say, I have a boyfriend, or she might say, I'm waiting for someone, or she might say, I'm not interested in meeting you. So what is the very worst case, right, scenario? And you can have several of them actually. So you can write them down, and then Also write down what's going to happen in the best case scenario and how you're going to feel in this best case scenario when everything is as you would like to happen. So maybe you approach her and she says, hi, I would like to talk to you, and yeah, it seems like we have a lot in common. I don't know. So you can write down what would be the best outcome. And then the last step that I think is very, can be really unusual, but you can see what comes up for you when you do this. So in taking that worst case scenario that you wrote down, or several worst case scenarios, then you can think about how to find an opportunity in this, right? So what can you still gain out of this situation, or maybe what she will gain if you still do it, right? So this is this last step is like looking at it from a different perspective. What is the hidden opportunity that lies in this situation, even if the worst case scenario is realized? So this is going to be different for different situations and different examples that you're working on. So for example, if let's say you're doing this practice and your goal is to actually take steps and approach that lady that you liked. So maybe the worst case scenario happens, right? But then what is a positive that can come out of this worst case, right? So she says, no, I'm waiting for someone. And then what can you still gain from it? And maybe it's an opportunity to just be open with a woman, and just to say to her that I appreciate your honesty, and at least you can share something honest with each other. Yeah, so a sincere moment, a sincere conversation can be that positive outcome. And there are many other positive outcomes. Maybe you will, maybe you can turn it into a positive experience if you just ask her another question and talk as a friend, and be open. Everybody likes to, everybody likes to get to know a nice person. And also everybody likes to receive, first of all, everybody likes to be, when somebody else is honest with them, and everybody likes to be appreciated. So you can share that appreciation with any person, and also receive it back as a friend, right? Even if that woman is not interested in meeting right now for a relationship, she might be sharing some interesting information that you can use in the future with in other situations like this. So you might actually ask her for a tip. What do you think could be a good tip? Where can I meet a nice woman? And maybe she has a friend who is looking for someone. So anyway, you can find what could be the positive that can come up even in the worst case scenario. So instead of being down, and instead of being upset that she said that she's not interested, we can still turn this situation into a positive and think about it from the positive point of view. Maybe you can learn some information from her, or just share an honest moment, and that's it. And that's going to be perfectly good outcome. So that's something to think about. And then I also wanted to mention David Hawkins, Dr. David Hawkins's book, Letting Go. And that book is helpful to let go of negative emotions. It just goes into the practice of looking at your negative emotions and and gradually just learning how to work with them. A very good book and very helpful book to understand how this process works. So I hope that you got something out of this video, and that you will start making simple action steps that are consistent with your intentions and that are supporting your inner growth. Good luck, and bye-bye. Take care.